Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Fraser Valley Hospital District Board. With that, I would like to start the meeting by recognizing that the area that we call the Fraser Valley Regional District has been home to 31 different First Nations for generations. Actions and decisions made by government in the past have left many Indigenous communities untrusting of the Canadian healthcare system. It is our collective responsibility to keep this at the forefront of our minds as we make decisions as a hospital board. Since the decisions we make have a direct impact on the physical and mental well-being of all community members, Indigenous and non-Indigenous. So with that in mind, I would like to call to order the April 24th, 2025 meeting of the Hospital District Board. Ms. Kinnaman.
Looking for approval of the agenda, and late items.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Director Facio and Director Siemens. Those in favor, contrary, carried.
Item 4.1 is the 2024 Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District audited financial statements. We have a presentation this evening.
Thank you. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to go briefly through our audit findings report. And by all means, feel free to ask me some questions when I get to the end here. So we're complete our work, subject to having this discussion with the board. I did obtain a signed management representation letter earlier today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about materiality in a few minutes, and then the areas of testing. You'll happy to know for the hospital board, there's no uncorrected or corrected misstatements. The financial statements that you will have in front of you are those that were presented by your finance team. There's no insignificant deficiencies or other control deficiencies either that we noted during the course of our audit. And finally, I do like to confirm both verbally and in writing that we are independent of the hospital board and thus able to sign our auditor's report. In terms of materiality, this year it's set at $390,000. It's based on total revenues. Our posting threshold, however, is $19,500. So we're testing down to that level. So that gives you some comfort in terms of the amount of detail that we go through during the course of our audit. In terms of significant risks and results, this management override of controls is prevalent in every single audit. It's hard-coded into our auditing standards, and we have to do work around this particular area. The main work we do is around testing of journal entries. And this year we actually used an AI scoring tool to identify any high risk or medium risk journal entries. And we noted no high risk or medium risk journal entries. All your journal entries are considered to be low risk. And so there is no issues arising out of our testing. I have in front of you the required inquiries of the board. These are all questions around if the board or members of the board are aware of any particular fraud matter. You should just bring it to my attention. We do send out a questionnaire to the board chair as well as to management during the course of our audit on these questions, but we're now obligated to point this out during our audit findings report. In terms of other areas for risk of misstatement, we look at the key items on the financial statements for the regional hospital district. They are revenues and expenditures, as you see on the next slide. In terms of revenues, there are some new accounting standards around revenues. Public sector standard 3400 doesn't have any impact on the hospital board, has a small impact on the regional district, which I'll speak to at a later meeting. So what do we do here? We look at the requisitions and any other revenue sources. We vouch deposits of the requisitions and other sources and test other areas of revenue. And there were no issues noted during our testing. On the expenditure side, again, we're selecting a sample of expenditures during the course of the year, vouching those expenditures to original documentation. And again, no issues noted during our testing. And then the last comment, I made it earlier, but here's a definition of a control deficiency. I won't read it out for you. Just focus on the last line on this page, is that we didn't identify any significant deficiencies during the course of our audit. And finally, just talk about accounting policies and practices. There was actually 3 new accounting standards this year. I already talked about the one in revenue, and the other 2 don't impact the regional hospital district. So I'll leave it at that, but happy to take any questions from members of the board.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions for Sean? Seeing none. Thank you. And I would, the motion, is that the next item then? Thank you. Yep. There's a motion there for your consideration. Director, Horn. I don't remember you. Director Horn and Director Siemens. You're so quiet. Those in favor, contrary, carried. Thank you very much, Sean. Next item, Ms. Kinnaman.
Next is 5.1, which is the draft Fraser Valley Regional Hospital District Board meeting minutes of March 27th, 2025.
Director Macahonic and Director Gibson. Any questions, errors, or omissions? Seeing none. Those in favor, contrary, carried.
Item 6 is reports from board directors.
Any reports from anyone? Next item, please.
Moving down to public question period for items relevant to the agenda, we'll just turn things over to our corporate officer, Jamie Van Ness.
Thank you.
We do not have any of the members of the public joining us online tonight. We do not have any members of the public in our audience with us tonight. And we have not received any written questions or comments with respect to tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Vaness. Next item, please.
Looking for a resolution to close the meeting.
So move, Madam Chair.
Director Facio and Director Smith. Those in favor, contrary, carried. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll just
A
turn
motion
things
to
over
adjourn.
to Chair, Vice Chair
Cook,
Clute.
Director Gibson. Those in favor, contrary, carried. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Chair Ross is with us on via Zoom, but for logistics purposes, I'll be chairing this meeting as she's in meetings in Victoria. So I'd like to begin with our land acknowledgement. I'd like to recognize that the area we call the Fraser Valley Regional District has been home to Indigenous peoples for generations. There are 31 communities with reserved lands in the FRD's jurisdiction and as many as 69 groups with interest in the area. We honor our commitment to collaboration, inclusion, and reconciliation in our work here today. I'd like to call to order the April 24th open Fraser Valley Regional District Board meeting. I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Kinnaman.
Looking for approval of the agenda, addenda, and late items.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Shahal. All in favor? So that carries. Next item, please.
4.1 is the 2024 Fraser Valley Regional District audited financial statements. And again, we have a presentation by Sean Reed.
Welcome, Mr. Reed.
Thank you. Okay. Fraser Valley Regional District. So again, we have concluded our audit, subject to having this discussion with the board. I'm going to talk about a few more things today. We're going to talk about materiality, the risk management override of control, the significant risk areas, which include revenues and expenditures, as well as tangible capital assets for the regional district. There is one uncorrected misstatement in we found as a result of our audit. That uncorrected misstatement has no net impact on income and no net impact on net financial assets or net assets as a total. So that adjustment was not recorded, and it's well below materiality. There are no corrected misstatements. Again, like to confirm that we are independent of the regional district, and that is confirmed in front of you in writing, but I also like to confirm verbally. In terms of materiality for the regional district, it's based on total of expenses, and it's $800,000 is a materiality. But again, our posting threshold is $40,000. And so we do testing design to find errors that are $40,000 or more. Management override of controls, again, this is prevalent or in every single audit. There's no increased risk at the regional district. We do a few things here. We test journal entries, again, using a transaction scoring method. We also look at any significant estimates and do a retrospective review to make sure those estimates or the changes in those estimates are reasonable. We also look at what we call significant unusual transactions. And there were no issues noted as a result of our testing. Again, we are required to ask members of the board if they are aware of any potential issues, fraud issues. This goes out to both management as well as the chair of the board during the course of our audit. In terms of areas of focus, revenues and deferred revenues are area of focus. And the regional district gets a number of grants during the year. Some of those grants are unconditional, and which you would recognize into revenue right away. Other grants come with conditions, and you can only recognize into revenue once you've either spent the money or met other conditions in the terms of those agreements. So we look at your significant grant agreements. We do testing over both the revenue side as well as the expenditure side to make sure that those contracts are recorded in the proper period. We also test other sources of revenue through various testing measures such as vouching to deposits or invoice. No issues noted as a result of our testing. From an expenses perspective, we again do a selection of your various expenses during the course of the year. We also sample payroll expenses, and we actually extended our payroll testing this year because your systems include an electronic approval of timesheets. So we actually had one of our IT auditors come in, understand your approval process, and making sure that the controls that are in place for approval of electronic approval of timesheets is valid and working properly. And there was no issues noted in that particular area or any of the areas that we were testing around expenses. In terms of tangible capital assets, there are significant capital asset additions this year, including the transfer of the Hope Recreation, the pool from the District of Hope to the Fraser Valley Regional District. That is required to be transferred in at fair value, and the management obtained a valuation around that pool, and so that is recorded as both revenue and an asset on the date of receipt. And because that asset was actually received in June, but the valuation was done at December, there's 6 months of amortization missing. However, you would have had 6 months of extra depreciation, so those two entries offset, and that's why that entry has not been posted, and it's well below our materiality. That's the only area of the only significant finding in testing capital assets. Again, we did not identify any control deficiencies throughout the course of the audit. And as I mentioned to you, there are 3 new accounting policies this year, including revenues. We did test the change in application of the revenues, which impacts building permits. That's about the only area, and the other two had no impact. I will leave it there, but happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Any questions from directors? Director Gibson.
Thank you, Chair. Is this appropriate? I ask a clarification of some of the material that is on the financial statement. Is this appropriate time to ask that?
I believe so. Yeah.
I do also want to anecdotally thank the representative for the dazzling graphics. Many of us don't think of accounting as being really interesting, but this is not the case. These graphics are appreciated. Thank you very much, sir. My question is on page 35, 35 or 16, depending on how you interpret it. And this is the investment in government business partnership. And I'm wondering if staff could just comment on the trajectory based on revenue, expenses, and income. That's my question.
Thank you, Director Gibson. Skinnaman.
It appears that the trajectory is not quite as positive as we might like.
Through the chair to Director Gibson, could you just clarify the page number? Do you mean, did you say 35?
Yeah, this is investment in government business partnership on page 35.
Thank you.
And you'll notice at the bottom, I was just casually looking at it. Total revenue, total expenses, and net income is perhaps what we might not expect. But again, I'm at a distance. I'm not familiar with this file. So my question is more of a clarification, not a criticism.
Sure. We'll just turn things over to our CFO, but also perhaps David Urban may want to weigh in because I believe this relates to the Cascade Lower Canyon Community Forest.
Thank you. Through the chair to Director Gibson. I would agree with Ms. Kinnaman. I think Mr. Urban may be more well suited to respond to this question on the future operations of the forest. We get these results as actuals as after the fact, but I don't have any sightlines onto the future projections. So maybe I'll turn it over to Mr. Urban. Thank you.
Yes, good evening through Vice Chair Clute to Director Gibson. Yeah, I can speak to the future because we're into that phase right now of this year's operations for the community forest. And as we all know, we've heard a lot of chatter in trade, and that's having an impact on the logging market. There has been a softening, and as a result of that, we expect revenues to come down. What I will say, which is positive, is the annual allowable cut that we're allowed to do. We're in our last year of that. And when times were robust, we took advantage and harvested as much as we could to minimize the downside in case there was a downturn like we're experiencing right now.
Okay, thank you. It sounds as if staff anticipated this, and that's comforting. But it certainly can see it's not a trajectory that we want to embrace regularly. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gibson. Director Siemens.
Thank you. Just a comment on this and on the one that we just had from the Regional Hospital District. This is probably one of the best presented reports and readable. So I just wanted to comment to you and to our staff. I think we've come a long way in making this, it's a very important issue. And I think sometimes if the public is watching, they'll think that we're just glossing over. But I think evidence of a good report is that there isn't a lot of questions. So I think most of the questions have been anticipated and have been answered. So thank you for that. And also kudos to staff. I think we're in a good spot. There's obviously some challenges from time to time with finances and government grants, and I think that's going to probably tighten up over the next while. But just wanted to comment that I appreciated the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said, Director Siemens. Any other questions from directors? If not, I believe there is a motion for the board's consideration. Someone will move by Director Pranger, seconded by Director Popoff. Any discussion? Director Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick thank you to our auditor for
I can only count on one hand, so this made it really easy for myself. Really appreciate that. And of course, a big thank you to Kelly and her financial staff for another wonderful job done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Facio. All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, Ms. Kinnaman.
Item 5.1 is the draft Fraser Valley Regional District Board meeting minutes of March 27th, 2025.
Someone willing to make the motion to accept the minutes? Director Johnson, Director Smith, any questions? All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
Items 6.1 through 6.6 are committee minutes for information and matters arising. Happy to separate any of those items.
Any directors wanting to separate any of the items? If not, it's for information, correct? You're not looking for a motion there. No.
No, we'll bring those back at a later date to be adopted.
Next item, please.
7.1, which is the financial plan 2025 to 2029 amendment for April.
It's a motion before us. Someone, Director Siemens and Director Dixon, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item is Candy.
7.2 is a 2025 grant and aid request for the DeRoche and District Community Association in electoral areas C and G.
So moved. Director Castle, seconded by Director Wardenberg. Any questions? All in favor? That carries. Next item, please.
7.3 is a 2025 grant and aid request for the Post Creek Ratepayers Association in electoral area E.
Motion is moved by Director McCahonick, seconded by Director Dreesen. Any questions? All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item.
7.4 is a 2025 grant and aid request for the Cultus Lake Park Board Community Events and Engagement Committee in electoral area H.
Moved by Director Dixon, seconded by Director Smith. All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
8.1 is the Fraser Valley Regional District Noxious Weed Control Service Area Conversion and Establishment Bylaw number 1750.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Castle. Any questions? All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item.
8.2 is Fraser Valley Regional District Rexford Creek Storm Drainage Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1770.
And that will be moved by McCahonick, and seconded by Director Dixon. Any questions on this one? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, please.
8.3 is Fraser Valley Regional District Electoral Area C Community Park Service Area Amendment Bylaw number 1771.
Moved by Director Wardenberg, seconded by Director Castle. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Next item, please.
8.4 is Fraser Valley Regional District Repeal Bylaw number 1784.
So there's three motions on this one, are correct? Yes. Moved
That's right.
by Director Dixon, seconded by Director Chahal. Any questions? All in favor? And the second motion, moved by Director Dickey, seconded by Director Pranger. Any questions on that? All in favor? Carries. And the third motion, moved by Director Horn, seconded by Director Dixon. Any questions? If not, all in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
8.5 is Fraser Valley Regional District Building Bylaw Amendment Bylaw number 1788.
Okay, there's three motions there as well, moved by Director Gill, seconded by Director Adamo. Any questions? All in favor? Carries. And the second motion, moved by Director Smith and Director Reed. All in favor? Carries. And then the third motion, I guess we have before us, Director McCahonick and Director Dreesen. Any questions? All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
9.1 is Community Wildfire Resiliency Plan Contract Award.
Okay, so Director Lowen, seconded by Director McCahonick. Any questions on this motion? If not, all in favor?
I got a question.
Oh, sorry. Director
Wardenberg.
Wardenberg. My eyes are not that good anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah, neither am I. Thank you. But through the staff, quick question. Is there any timelines on the completion of this report?
Ms. Kinnaman.
Sure, we'll just turn things over to Tarina College.
Thank you. Through Vice Chair Clute to Director Wardenberg. The project will be wrapped up by February 2026, and then we'll have a report to the board.
Good with that. Okay. Any other questions? Director Damo.
Just one question through the chair, please. Just curious as to how the Sunshine Valley specifically comes into play when we start talking about these, and that we don't have any responsibility for that fire department or that fire services in that area. So I'm wondering who we question to ask about things for fire resiliency in that area.
Give it over to Skinnaman.
Yeah, I think Tarina's ready to go.
Thank you. Great question. It's not specific to fire departments, fire protection services. The CWRP is more about the forest fuel load, the boundaries around communities, and there are foresters that are going to provide data to the FVRD as we will receive a final report from that, and then the recommendations from that will be brought internally as well as shared externally to any appropriate bodies to share those recommendations with. So if there are recommendations that come specific to Sunshine Valley fire protection, we can make sure that the fire department receives them through that process.
Thanks. Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
9.2 is covenants for a 6-lot strata subdivision at 3636 Columbia Valley Road in electoral area H.
Moved by Director Dixon and seconded by Director Dickey. Any questions? All in favor? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
9.3 is update on Bill 44 Housing Statutes Amendment Act implementation and award of contract for servicing review.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Director Facio, seconded by Director Shahal. Any questions? Comments? Director Davidson.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, for the report. I was particularly interested in the updated work plan and schedule. It answered a lot of questions I was having about how this is going to play out. But there's one item in the work plan that I have a question on where it says, identify and certify any parcels where exemptions will apply, if any. And that sort of implies a certification or exemption criteria, process, whatever. So I'm just wondering if staff could perhaps elaborate on how that exemption is determined, and is there criteria, or just if you could just take a little bit deeper dive into that exemption line item.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Ms. Skinnaman.
Sure, I think we'll just turn that over to our Director of Planning and Development, Graham Daniluz.
Thank you. Through Chair Clute to Director Davidson. The legislation provides an opportunity for exemptions from the requirement to allow small-scale multi-unit dwellings, in this case, suites or accessory dwelling units, where an engineer certifies that there's a hazardous condition would result from the zoning change necessary to allow that additional unit. There's no particular criteria set out in the legislation. What we propose to do with this work is ask our engineering consultant to consider that question and identify areas where they feel that there may be hazardous conditions that result from the zoning change that we're required to make. We're not at all sure that will be the case, that those kinds of that exemptions would be recommended by the consultant, but it's a part of the consideration that we're asking of the consultant. And if that's the case, then of course the consultant's report would come through the committee and board with a recommendation to the board.
If I can follow up.
Please do.
So top of mind concern for me, of course, has been the McConnell Creek Aquifer study. And we're hoping to get some data from that model this year, and should it indicate that there's a challenge in supporting additional housing, additional residents, would that qualify as a hazard per se, or is that something you're deferring to the consultant on, or do you have any opinion on that at this time?
All right. Thank you, Chair, through to Director Davidson. We've asked the consultant to consider the work that's been done and the data on the McConnell Creek Aquifer, and so that's a part of the considerations that they'll make. wouldn't hazard a guess at this time whether the consultant would be bringing forward these kinds of recommendations, but we would be looking to the consultant to identify the kinds of the hazardous condition, whether those aquifer conditions constitute a hazardous condition, and they would have to identify what that condition is, and then we'd be bringing the matter to you for your direction.
Okay, thank you.
You have a, okay, good. Director Horn.
Yes, thank you. The report, Mr. Chair, references Cultus Lake. Are there other areas where this work would likely have impact? My understanding of this new legislation, it really only is in areas where there is some sort of urban density. I have a follow-up question, but I'll pause there.
Mr. Lilly answer that, I guess.
Again, through the chair. The Bill 44, which is the BC Housing Statutes Amendment Act, requires that we, the regional district, amend. We have 2 zoning bylaws, one of which applies to Cultus Lake, the other applies to the 8 electoral areas, with some exceptions. Sunshine Valley is one, Boston Bar is another. But we're required to amend our zoning bylaw so that in every zone that allows a single-family dwelling, it's amended to also allow that single-family dwelling plus a suite, or an accessory dwelling unit, or both a suite and an accessory dwelling unit. And so that requirement is present in every part of our electoral areas where we have zoning that permits single family homes.
Okay, thank you. It's a lot of money. I'm not suggesting that it's more than it's worth, because the scope of dealing with 8 electoral areas, many of which are very rural, and obviously the Cultus Lake area is obviously a challenge. So that takes me to my second question. Is there anything to be gained by borrowing the work being done that has already been done by the municipal partners within the regional district?
Mr. Lilly.
Thank you, Chair. The greatest part of the cost for this work is to assess our, I believe, 13 community water systems and 6 community sanitary sewer systems, to understand whether they have the capacity to support the added development that's required of us. And so I think the work done in the municipalities doesn't provide any benefit in that respect. The second smaller chunk of money that constitutes this budget is to look at areas of the electoral areas where we rely on site sanitary sewer disposal, so septic fields, and particularly in areas of small lot development, often in around lakes or amenity areas like Hatzick Island or Hatzick Prairie or Lake Arrock or Cultus Lake, and is to understand the impact of the zoning change on water.
Thank you. I'll wrap up by simply saying I share those concerns, but I think I also share concerns within the municipality. We were concerned about the impact of this legislation on heritage buildings and neighborhoods. But here, and I would defer to Director Dixon's expertise and to the other electoral area directors, but you just mentioned a number of areas where obviously there are important recreational and social impacts. And I can imagine a circumstance where things becoming overcrowded or traffic influx and outflux on a weekend down into that area will be impacted. I think we spoke of this a great deal through the course of the process of these 3 pieces of legislation coming through, including this one, and often commented that there isn't a one-size-fits-all thing. And I'm really frustrated, and I'm not commenting on anything that's happening that we're doing. I'm frustrated provincially that a $205,000 contract is being awarded, and something that I think belies the choice of people who are living in these areas. It's just, I'm sorry, but intuitively, I think we can probably reach a conclusion that this is not where the biggest housing need is in our province, and it's falling on the taxpayers of this region to do something that works contrary to most of their choices.
Thank you, Director Horn, and thank you, Mr. Danovitz. So for those who are chalking up screw ups, there's one for me. Director Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you. I share Director Horn's comments as well, and a little bit concerned that the money will be spent with a consultant, and hopefully it will. I'm interested to. I should be positive. I'm interested to see what the results will be, so I won't go into negativity here. So the capacity funding is coming from the province for up to $203,000. or not to exceed, I guess I should say, is an expectation that not all of that will be necessarily used, or is it just a irony that it's the same amount that the consultant, or can you kind of give a little bit more into how the number, the capacity equaled exactly what we're expecting the consultant to charge?
I think we have too many microphones. If we could maybe get one turned off so that Mr. Danilus can answer the question.
Excuse me, through the chair, $203,100,000 was the amount that the regional district received from the province to implement the Housing Statutes Amendment Act. There's a significant part of the work that we're undertaking ourselves without having to engage consultants. For example, we completed the interim housing needs report, and we'll undertake the zoning amendments ourselves and other components of the work. We received an estimate from the consultant that's $200,000 to do this body of work. Like to have a little bit of flexibility, a few $1,000s if there's a couple of add-ins that we need through the course of the work. So that gives me a little bit of flexibility, and that's how we arrive at the full grant amount being spent on this.
You have a follow-up, Director?
No, just a quick comment. Thank you for the additional information and your previous comments about the sewer water and going a little more detail into what the consultant's work would mean. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Dreesen. Director Dixon?
Dixon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually have three and lump them all together. Just want to start with, I certainly agree with Director Horn and the other challenges that come. We're still referred to as rural areas, and they're getting less and less rural. And while I appreciate that we're exploring, the impact this will have on our area and whether our water and sewer can handle it, it also sounds like there's really no opportunity for input from the public, and I just find that really discouraging. The province is coming along and saying you will do this. Everybody's going to have a suite, then that's the way the way it is. Unless, so we'll see what happens, I guess, with this report. Is ALR excluded from this?
Through the chair, no, it's not.
So, follow up. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So everybody on the ALR could also have, or is expected to have, suites as well?
Suites are already permitted in the ALR, and in many cases, they would allow something equivalent to an accessory dwelling unit, although they limit the size of it. So generally speaking, I think the ALC regulations are in line with what's required.
Okay, I'll follow up with you later on that. And if I may, where is Mott in this? Because rural roads are something I get complaints about all the time, along with overcrowding and things like that. And if we're essentially kind of doubling the number of residents in our area, are they involved? Or yeah, I'm just curious where they're at.
Thank you, Chair. We do routinely engage with Ministry of Transportation when we're looking at changes to zoning and more intense land uses. So that's routine for us. I will note, though, that actually the Local Government Act requires us to refer zoning bylaws to the Ministry of Transportation where we're amending zoning within a certain distance, 800 meters of a controlled access highway. But in this case, the province has waived that requirement. So indeed, we're not required to get ministry sign off on the zoning amendment. I want to emphasize that we do routinely engage with the ministry, and we'll be looking for their feedback nevertheless.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And for your point there, Director Dixon, on the agricultural land reserve, they are permitted to have up to 90 square meters, regardless of the size of the property and regardless of the annual farm receipts. So it's from my understanding, though, if anybody were to pursue that in a separate building, they still need to request a notice of intent, which is a fairly lengthy process. But
okay,
Director Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just the electoral areas have a lot of very complicated real estate, and if this consultant is going to try and address to cordon off the areas where there are serious geotechnical concerns from this legislation, that would appear to be a Herculean task. Wouldn't it be better to try and address this at the time of a development proposal?
To the chair, to Director Dickey. Yeah, thank you, Director Dickey. That's indeed what we're proposing to do, is to address geohazards through the building permitting process. So we have development permit areas established, and we can require geotechnical reports through the building permit process. There's some subsequent tweaks to our policy around hazard acceptability thresholds that we think are needed. They'll come to the board in due course in their minor policy changes. But this work that we're looking to urban systems to complete wouldn't include review of geohazards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Siemens.
Thank you. Just curious, first of all, I'm glad that the province is funding this and it's not coming out of our smaller pool of taxes, but coming out of the larger pool. Just wondering, how does the septage issue, we've got a significant septage problem already in the electoral areas. So how does that play into this? And then we also just did the Cultus Lake sewer system, and I don't know, obviously there was plan for growth, but not the significant growth. So are we going to be able to tie these issues in? Because that is one of the unintended consequences of what they're imposing here. So is that hopefully what we're going to be able to have some tools in our arsenal to fight this in some of these areas? You raised, they raised some excellent points on roads. We're running into those challenges in Abbotsford and our rural areas as well. But just wondering on those two issues, we've got a significant challenge on our hands already without this increase. So are we hoping that that's going to maybe speak to that?
Mr. Daniels.
Thank you, Chair. We would ask urban systems to consider the truck liquid waste or septage issue when they're looking at particularly impacts to water from increased waste being disposed of to ground in vulnerable areas like Hudson Island or Hudson Prairie. I think we should have realistic expectations about what this consultant will be able to do with respect to truck liquid waste, but they will factor it into the understandings they bring forward. And it's possible that those kinds of considerations would come into the consultant's consideration of hazardous conditions that could arise. So we should be open-minded to that. I would add to that the province compels us to amend our zoning bylaws, and I believe that the province prioritized the creation of additional housing units over these kinds of issues, like the potential for increased waste flow into groundwater and so on. They understood that these are possible issues. They give very little guidance on them, but the priority of the province was to increase the number of housing units, and that's what they've required us to do.
You have a follow-up?
I suspect we have some strong advocacy issues that are going to percolate out of this. So, because I do think that the unintended consequences and the other challenges that we're going to face as a region, it's one thing in the urban areas and the challenges we're having, but these challenges are just going to exacerbate the problems that are already existing. So they need to, I think there's some advocacy work that we can do here.
I agree. Certainly lots of challenges on the horizon in my mind. Any other questions or comments, Director Bringer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When this report is finished, does the ministry still have the right to say, this is not what we like, and send us back to the drawing board and spend more money?
Mr. Danilous probably has a good answer for that.
Thank you, Chair. No, I don't anticipate any vetting process from the province about this report or actions. If we're to exercise the exemption that comes with the hazardous condition certification from an engineer, we do need to report and justify that to the province, and that's where we would be attempting to satisfy them with uncertain outcomes, I think. But in terms of the the report in its direction, no.
Okay, thank you. Any, sorry, Director Wardenberg, I don't see your light. It's blending into, that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Chair to Graham Dennis. Just in regards to that on-site septic systems on small lots near lakes, and in regard to Lake Erock, so if this is zoned for suites and somebody decides to put a suite in, then they need a building permit. At that stage, are they required to update the septic system on site?
Chair to Director Wardenberg, yes, the conversion of a basement into a suite requires a building permit, and that's an occasion that we would require that the applicant show us evidence that they filed a registration with Fraser Health around the connection of the suite to the existing on-site septic field. Now, the rigor with which Fraser Health reviews it or accepts filings is a question that we want to learn more on. And as a part of this study, we'll be engaging with Fraser Health to understand with more detail what they'd be looking for and what kind of requirements we could anticipate for people. On the low end of the spectrum, it could be that they hire a registered on-site wastewater practitioner to do a condition check on the existing field. At the other end of the spectrum, there's costly engineered upgrades to on-site septic fields that might be required. And we're not sure what Fraser Health would be looking for at this point.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, motion before us, all in favor? Any opposed? So that carries. Next item, please.
So moving down to 10.1 is an information item. It's the quarterly update from January to March.
Thank you for information. Any questions, comments?
Davidson?
Director Davidson, go ahead.
Just a request. I know on the 2024 Q4 update, staff included on the bylaw section the change in the number of active files. I'm hoping we can make that a permanent change going forward on these quarterly updates, so we can see what the total number of active files is changing from quarter to quarter.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. We'll endeavor to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Moving on then.
Yep. And moving to 10.2, we have regional zero emissions mobility strategy. Again, it's an information item, but happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from directors? Okay, moving on.
Okay, 10.3 is the 2025 Regional Economic Review and related initiatives. Again, an information item.
Thank you. Questions from directors? Director Ross, or Chair Ross.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with a question that I asked at RACS. I asked why aerospace wasn't listed in its own category, because we have like healthcare, manufacturing, finance, arts, entertainment, etc. So I guess in my mind, I thought aerospace, because it's so significant for our region, it would have been its own category. And I was told that it was probably under transportation and warehousing. And this isn't a criticism, I'm just curious. So I just wanted to ask a follow-up question. So what would make any particular industry rise to the level of having its own category as opposed to being listed under one of the other more general categories? Does that make sense?
Hand it over to Ms. Kinnaman.
Thank you. Yes, I think we can get a follow-up on that from Riley Smith.
So through Vice Chair Clute to Chair Ross, so the 20 categories in our report represent the highest classification level of the North American industry classification system. So this is a system that was designed by stats agencies from Canada, the US, and Mexico to classify economic activity across a set of predefined categories. So under these 20 high-level definitions, there are numerous subcategories. So the bulk of airport operations in Abbotsford would fall under the subcategory of transportation and warehousing, and that is called support activities for air transport. and that includes airport operations as well as aircraft repair and maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I just want to add as well, it's just an outstanding report and a lot of valuable information for our region. So thank you to everyone who did so much hard work on it.
Director Horn.
Yes, thank you. Two questions. The first is, like Director Ross or Chair Ross, I think this is an exceptional report. I would really appreciate if it's not already in staff's intentions to share it with all of our municipalities, if we could do that. And then the second thing is a staff question, but sometimes the data in here represents the Abbotsford Mission CMA, and sometimes it's able to talk about, for example, farm percentages by community at a more microscopic level. It's a challenging thing for us as a municipality because we know we need to target employment in our community. So when we're seeing economic numbers that have our neighbor, which is a much larger community, and a change there can change the numbers rather in a challenging way. I wondered to staff whether or not either they had identified sources that were reliable by community, and or whether or not we might try writing to the federal government and asking for them. I can do that at Mission instead of here, but whether or not there's any likelihood from staff's experience.
Yes, I'll pick that up through Vice Chair Clute to Director Horn. Thank you for that observation. We feel the same. There's some challenges with the scale of the data sets, and you can only use what you have. So I think advocating for opportunities to make it community-based would serve all of our communities in a better way. So I take that as feedback to something we can look into and see if we can make some change there.
Thank you. Thank you. I think what I'll do is I'll confer with Director Ross or Director Siemens. I do that every time offline and see whether or not Mission and Abbotsford might undertake to write a joint letter.
Thank you. Do you want to comment on that specific? Yeah, I'll let you jump in there then. Sure.
I would say that we're more than neighbors, we're partners. And there may be some and DeRoche too, the mayor of DeRoche over there.
What about Ag?
You can, and so if you're happy with the way things are going, it's Mayor Siemens, and if there's a problem, it's Mayor Ross, because I can just defer to Patricia then. No, but I think there's some benefits to that, but I think maybe we could boil it down because there are benefits, I think, to the region, because I think we're the 23rd largest metropolitan area, Mission and Abbotsford together. So there's some very good benefits for that. But it does, yes, I understand the challenges because I think there's going to be things that are more site specific for Mission that would be better suited. So those numbers would be important. So hopefully there's a way we can work through that. But I would like to just say that this is a really good report and helps us with our region, because I would view everybody at this table as partners in, it gives us good material. There are going to be things that make more sense maybe to be in Mission or in one of the electoral areas or in Chilliwack because of proximity to other things. And there's going to be things that make more sense because of border crossing or because of air transport that would be better in Abbotsford. So maybe this is an opportunity for us to work together, but really good work for advocacy for the region. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Siemens. Director Bringer.
Thank you through the chair to staff. Thank you for those valuable reports. And I have asked all of my council to read them. We have one copy and they can do it as bedtime reading.
And then we'll be able to sleep at 6.
Perfect. Any other comments, questions? I'll also echo my thanks. 62 pages, really well done to the team and really interesting. Might not like all the information I read, but that's the reality on the ground. So good work. Moving on then to the next item, please.
10.4 is social media policy update. There are 2 motions for your consideration.
All right, somebody willing to move the first motion, Castle, seconded by Horn, all in favor?
Question.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Director Gibson.
This looks good. There's a lot of work that went into this. I appreciate it. My query is, who's responsible? Really, there's no hierarchical accountability here. So, like the latter report about media, that's clear, and that's more tangible. But this one, I just fear it's a little vague, and it's not a strong criticism, but I worry that if we adopt this report, there's no level of accountability. It's quite vague. For example, if I may, Mr. Chairman, point 7, as an elected representative of FERD, it is expected that any time a public statement made regarding FERD, including personal social media accounts, that the person making the statement would be held to the same standards and professionalism owned and operated by social media accounts. Well, you can't disagree with that. However, where's the accountability? Who decides, right? So all of us around this room have our own accounts. I think most of us are on Instagram or Facebook or X, Twitter. But here, it's not clear who's accountable. So that's what I worry about. If we adopt this, fine. I don't think it's overly controversial, but I think at some point we're going to look back and say, hold it now. We need more accountability here, because this is quite important, and it goes to the heart of the way we communicate with our constituents. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Skinnaman.
Sure, through the chair to Director Gibson. I think one of the benefits that this board has is it adopted a code of conduct. And so I think that those kinds of issues would be helped through that lens. And as you recall, there's an informal process as well as a formal process. So I think if we were ever to find ourselves in that kind of situation, we would use that tool in those instances.
Do you have a follow-up, Dr. Gibson?
Well, I don't want to belabor this, and elaboration from our CEO is helpful, but I think we all have different opinions around the table, and we want to be careful that those opinions are 100% consistent with the ethos of the FERD.
Thank you, Director Gibson. Other comments, questions? I'll ask a question, not so much to be written in policy, but I wonder if there is opportunity to potentially look at a communication strategy that is similar to the District of Kent or the Resort Municipality of Harrison, where they do a recap after their meetings, just to give people a bit of an idea of what took place at the meeting, and rather than going through, a whole bunch of agenda items to figure out if things passed or didn't pass. But I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity at some point to do that.
Sure, I'll just turn that over to Sam Piper.
Thank you, through the chair. Absolutely, there's an opportunity, and our first step in the social media realm was to get approval of the existing policy. Next steps will be to move through our social media strategy and plan, and that is definitely part of our forward-looking is to do recaps on a regular basis.
Thank you, Ms. Piper. Appreciate that. Other comments? Seeing none, we'll all in favor. So that carries. Thank you. I'll move to the second motion moved by Director Horn, seconded by Director Adamo. Comments, Director Horn.
Thank you. City of Mission on Tuesday evening made a change to our social media platforms based ultimately on 3 criteria. And it's the first one that I want to highlight because I think it literally just happened in real time here, where our social media platforms have been used in a way I would describe as a scattergun across municipalities, across governments, largely because it's new territory, and on any given day there's a new platform and everybody just sort of jumps on with it. But I think Director or Acting Chair Klutz, question or Vice Chair Klutz, I'll get it right, one of the terms there, it was a perfect example of how we're taking a more refined look at the use of social media, rather than being on multiple platforms, adding value to the communication we put out on a few platforms, and recognizing that unless I'm mistaken, Ms. Piper probably doesn't have 26 hours in the day, and neither does anybody else who does this work. It's not just a question for me of whether or not, as the motion says, I do have concerns about the integrity and the manipulation going on of political information on social media platforms. Obviously have concerns about the owners of some of these platforms and their intrusions into Canadian sovereignty. But ultimately, the thing that tips the balance for me is I'm hoping that we'll look at our social media from a lens of what reaches people the most efficiently and effectively. And right now, I'm not convinced that most municipalities or local governments, including regional districts, are doing that. And it's extremely time consuming. And there's really not a lot of yield for some of these smaller platforms.
Thank you, Director Horn and Director Lowen.
Thank you. On that point, but that Director Horn just raised, it's ironic that if I understand correctly, if I remember correctly, at the city of Abbotsford, I believe X, formerly known as Twitter, has a large number of followers. It's probably reaches more people than some of the other or all of them. I'm not sure. I could be corrected on that. And it's somewhat troubling in that because that's the one platform I would prefer, as some local governments have discontinued using because of the toxicity and its failure to moderate content. And so I guess it's an open question to our social media staff, whether they have considered that, or is that something that we as a board want to even discuss. But I just put it out there for thought, and not necessarily any decision this evening. However, it does concern me.
Thank you, Director Lowen. From what I'm hearing is you're potentially would look to amend the motion to ask that staff would engage with the member municipalities in the regional district to see what their process is, or
Mr. Chair, just
I'm not in favor of creating extra work. Let's put it that. But I just wanted to put on the table for consideration, perhaps for the future.
Just a point of order, Mr. Chair. I think that's built into the motion. This came up at RACS, and I think the motion really does give staff the free rein to go and take that methodology. And I think that Director Lowen's comments were similar to some that were there.
Thank you, Director Lowen. Director Gill.
And Vice Chair Clute, if I may, just sort of at a general level, so that the rest of the board members who don't attend RACS might just get a general sense. When social media really exploded on the scene, and it felt like you needed to be on all platforms all the time, I think that has changed over time. And certainly our communications team is now taking a more surgical look at ensuring that where are we getting the most engagement, where are residents and businesses and those looking for government information, local government information, where are they most likely to go to get that information? And so let's direct our time in those spaces. And so that would be part of the intention behind any kind of communications plan from this organization. But this motion just gives us that further refinement, as Director Horn mentioned. So we will bring back a report in this regard, and I have no doubt that our member municipalities, as well as other best practices from across Canada, will be considered.
Great, thank you. Director Gill.
Thank you, Acting Chair Clutes. I think that does answer my question. I guess a follow-up question to that is, with our social media platforms for FERD, are we just pushing out content to inform the public, or are we engaging in responding to comments that we get?
Skinnaman.
Sure, let's turn that over to Sam Piper.
Thank you. Through the chair, we do both, actually. We do monitor social media just for risk management purposes. We also reply to any requests or comments that we do receive on any of our posts, and we do promote projects or initiatives or and share content as well for BC Transit, for example, if it's affecting our region. So we do a little bit of both.
and through the Have Your Say site as well. That's more of a platform that's really ideal for that kind of two-way dialogue when we might be embarking upon a project and want to have true conversations with individuals in the community.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Director Adamo.
Thanks very much to the chair, to staff. Will this include any type of an actual in-house workshop for new electees or veteran elected officials? Be careful how I word that sometimes. My concerns are that a lot of us have been on social media for a long time and still get caught in our own personal day-to-day things because the media is tremendously talented at getting you to say things in a social setting and then bringing it back against you. And so I think that we need this general awareness and this extra training. And I go back to years and years ago. I'll date myself. My media trainer was a news anchor, Mike Colleen, and he used to teach us that how evil the media can be in manipulating anything that you say, even if you say it in a general room where you don't think there's any media. So just a cautionary thing. And I think we get caught on that in a personal note all over the place. In our own area, District of Hope and Area B, our media representative is at every single thing. She sees us every day, takes pictures every day, gets us to make comments every day. And it's interesting because you're always in the spotlight, but you don't think you're in the spotlight. So I'm just wondering if back to the original question, if there's going to be any type of a workshop that, it would be voluntary, I suppose, but it would be well worthwhile for some of us to get a refresher every now and again with respect to the new technologies and the new media that's out there.
Ms. Kinnaman.
Through the chair to Director Adamo, certainly our staff have been already discussing how we are going to onboard the next board after the election in 2026 and what enhancements or opportunities that might be available for orientation. Certainly, I know that many of you attend workshops and conferences throughout the course of a 4-year board term, and I often see this topic on those agendas. I think there's one maybe even coming up next week at LMLGA. So it's our hope through those kinds of opportunities, as well as our own orientation, that we can help board members as best as we can. I'm always happy to accept other ideas and funding if you've got money to provide it for workshops that might be a little bit more extensive beyond what we can provide as staff.
Thank you, Ms. Kinnaman. Director Smith.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. Director Damo's correct. Right now we have a very good news reporter and does great stories. And I know that has dealt with Miss Piper, and she's pretty good at reading people. Before, I think the gentleman worked for the National Enquirer, but fortunately he wasn't there very long because he would look for the worst story he could ever find in his life and would try to turn the words around. But also Director Lowen, when it comes to that about Twitter, we've discontinued it in ours, but we left that up to staff, their decision. And we found that it wasn't getting used enough and was negative. So let staff take a look because they're pretty hands-on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. Any further comments? If not, sorry, Director Facio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe as far as information that comes into the FERD during the course of a year, our CAO will inform us in regards to any legal problems that if you see this or see a write-up from the newspapers, you please direct it back to the chair or to the administration, and not to comment on that. So I think that's a good form to move by. As far as Director Adamo regarding what people continuously put and write up about, whether it's us or municipal or neighbors, well, then people, I'm afraid, will always be around. Very difficult for them to, and that's part of their life, unfortunately. But I won't get into those details. But I think that social media is something that we are watching very carefully in Harrison as well. We have now a good team that takes care of our social media. I'd like to thank Samantha and her team for what they do for the regional district here. So I think we're very well looked after, and I'll leave it to the staff to take care of us. But we also have to be very cautious on what we say to the media or in general public. So if you're not sure, just say, I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Facio. And I think on that note, we're ready for the question. All those in favor? So that carry, any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
Next is 10.5, which is the media relations policy update. And before you look for a mover and a seconder, Vice Chair Clute, I just wanted to draw the board's attention to page 289. There had been some discussion at committee about some language in the document, and we did make an effort to streamline a little bit. And that language was with respect to the original policy spoke to Part 14 matters and when the electoral area services committee chair would act as the spokesperson. So I'll just read you the revised paragraph so that we're all on the same page.
Just one sec, if I can interrupt you. So you mentioned 289, but are we looking at the policy itself?
Page 289 of the agenda.
Of the agenda, okay.
Page 3 of 4 in the policy.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
So it's under procedure, and it's section 1, and it's the last bullet, or yes, it's the last bullet, which starts with the chair of the Electoral Area Services Committee is the spokesperson on broad matters pertaining specifically to electoral areas, and they must advise the chair of the board, CAO, and manager of communications of the media opportunity and in advance of any media activity. So that's just revised it from where before previously it commented on Part 14 matters, which would typically be dealt with by electoral area committee. So hopefully that resolves some of the confusion that was discussed at our committee table.
Guess we need to get it on the floor first so we can have a discussion. Someone willing to move that? Director Gill, seconded by Director Adamo. And now is there any discussion with that clarifying information? Director Workington.
Yes, thank you. Rather technical, but it's what I do sometimes. So on page 1 of 4, there's a set of bullet points that say FERD spokespersons are, and the second bullet point says Board of Directors as delegated by chair. I take it that means a single member of the Board of Directors if delegated by the chair. Is that what is meant by that? In which case the language might need a bit of cleanup there.
Thank you. Ms. Kinnaman.
Through the chair, to Director Workington, thank you. Yes, that would be the intention. There are times, I'm trying to think of a recent one where the chair of the board may ask another member of the board to take the lead on a particular topic. It might be an area that they are personally knowledgeable about, or perhaps it's an area that of advocacy that they've taken on. I can think in the past, we had a member, Director Bud Mercer, who had a long history in policing, and he took the point on advocacy issues around policing. So that would have been the situation where the chair of the board appointed that individual to do that work.
Go ahead.
No, I understand the concept. It's just that the delegation is not to the board; it's to a member of the
board directors instead of the word of.
Well, just the word a director.
A director.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
We'll
thank you.
be happy to make that change.
Thank you.
Take that as staff direction, I'm assuming. Yep. Okay. Good catch. Any other comments, questions? All in favor? Any opposed? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.6 is Steward Logistics, Inc. Tower referral at 58251 Laidlaw Road in Electoral Area B.
So moved.
Who said that? Oh, Director Adamo, sorry. Seconded by Director Dixon. Any comments, questions? All in favor? Any opposed? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.7 is Agricultural Land Commission application for fill at 10940 Stave Lake Road in Electoral Area F.
And this is an EA vote.
Davidson moves.
Moved by Davidson, seconded by Castle. Any conversation? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.8 is update on proposed Harrison Rise development at 43837 and 43873 Lougheed Highway, Area C.
Just for information, do any of the directors have any questions? Seeing none, I'll move to the next item, please.
10.9 are motions brought forward from the April 14th, 2025 Electoral Area Advocacy Committee meeting, and we'll just go through them. So 10.9.1 is options for determining Electoral Area Advocacy Committee Chair.
There's a motion before you. It's moved by Director Smith, seconded by Director Johnson. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.9.2 is meeting with Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness.
Motion before you, moved by Director Makahonic, seconded by Director Dickey. Any questions, comments? Director Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, I certainly understand that Director Makahonic has put a lot of work into this, and there's something that the final state, I guess, a couple words in the motion say to rescind their decision around financial disaster financial assistance and follow their published policy. Is like, I see that, and is that something that our board has decided, or our staff, or a lawyer, or could? And I'm not even suggesting it's not true. I just don't know how that was decided, because I'm not familiar with that published policy.
Skinnaman.
Sure. Through the chair to Director Dixon. Well, of course, yeah, you will recall that this motion did not arise from staff recommendation. This arose from the table from Director Makahonic. But I can confirm that when we were going through the process of recovery and working with residents through disaster financial assistance, staff advocated heavily to the ministry and used the published policy of how disaster financial assistance recommendations were made and identified how those individuals would qualify under that published policy, and yet they were still refused. So my understanding of the intention of this motion is to meet with the new minister and inform them of what we've been through here in the Fraser Valley, in particular those residents, and the motion's asking to rescind that final decision and to go back to that published policy, which is the framework that they use in order to make DFA determination.
Thank you. Director Makahonic.
Maybe I should wait until.
Sorry, Director Horn.
Yeah, that would actually probably be preferable, because I have a question that Director Makahonic might want to answer. I understand the nature of the issue here. I know that I had, I'll call it, the opportunity to sit at the meeting at UBCM last year, and it certainly seemed to me that EMCR was resolute and did not seem to feel that there was anything that was out of order. The motion, as it's expressed, includes directing staff to request a meeting, and it strikes me that it's really not so much, and I think this is somewhat in line with what Director Dixon was asking, whether or not they're following their published policy, but whether they're doing the right thing, which in my view makes it a more political conversation. Is the intent here for a meeting between the EMCR minister and the EA representative and the chair of the FBRD, or is it at the staff level? And what would our strategy be? Or perhaps we don't want to have that conversation here, but I think we need a strategy that's better than follow their published policy, which has not gone very far so far.
Ms. Skinnaman.
Sure. Through the chair to Director Horn, absolutely, this is a request simply having staff to facilitate the meeting, which would be with elected representatives, which would of course include Director Makahonic, the chair of the board, and possibly others from the EA Advocacy Committee or possibly from the Intergovernmental Relations Committee. But in terms of the strategy, I think that that would have to be developed once a meeting was actually confirmed, and over the course of time leading up to that meeting. But perhaps Director Makahonic might want to speak to that.
Director Makahonic.
Thank you. So the staff I wanted to thank the staff actually, Mr. Daniluz in particular, for developing a path forward using the policy. During the whole time from the 2021 atmospheric river till the decision that the residents received just before the writ was dropped to say no, they used language that they were working on solutions, and like so I think people are familiar with that. But they did not share that path forward through the published policy, even with the local MLA. I found out after the decision was made, so they chose not to share that with the decision makers. So, and it clearly shows that. And I've been working on this and definitely have strategy. So, working up to the meeting, I can share some of the strategy. Right now, we're in the process of working with you, Vic, on the climate disaster project, which will raise this. It's a journalistic climate journalistic investigation and a very reputable work. Anyway, so that's going to be public. So they've done their first interviews. They'll be doing the filming. I was really pushing hard to get this moving a little quicker because Richard Holmes, who lost his house, it's gone, has been very eloquent and a strong speaker on behalf of this group. He became ill, and unfortunately he passed away Thursday, the day he was supposed to do his interview. And I have had comments that I'll boil it down to say that I should just give up. I'm not. I'll share this. I was widowed at 29 with 3 kids. I lost everything. WCB wouldn't settle with me. I was very young and naive. I pounded those floors of the ledge for 8 years and worked on it. And I was able to get policy changed and get resolution for people moving forward. And I know this has been a long time, but we were waiting on government. And so that is part of the strategy that we're doing. I will not give up on this, and I think we have a good chance. I'm also have confirmation from Damian Gillis, who just won an award with Valhalla Wilderness Association for a documentary and film. He is going to be working on with us and the residents on a very strong social media campaign to go forward. I've also spoken to a law firm that everyone's very familiar with. They approached me after I spoke up at the conference in Richmond in February and said that they're willing to work with us. So this isn't just one thing. There's a lot of strategy going on. And by the time we get to the meeting, I think that, it's going to take, it's not going to take one thing. And I believe that there's a new minister in, and they did not look at published policy. And I think that that is a door we can use to open. And if that isn't quite enough for them, I believe that some of the strategies that we are using are going to encourage them to do that. So I am feeling a little passionate, as someone mentioned at the last meeting, but these are my neighbors. And these people really deserve support, and that's my job, and that's what I'm here for. And I would really appreciate some support from the board as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Makahonic. We appreciate the passion you bring to the table in this regard. Is there any other comments? If not, all in favor of the motion before you? Any opposed? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.9.3 is minister meetings with respect to truck liquid waste.
There's a motion before you, Director Castle, seconded by Director Smith. Any discussion on this? Director Davidson.
Thank you. So there was an article in the Fraser Valley Current speaking to LaCamel's plans. And it makes me wonder, in light of those plans LaCamel has to bring in a treatment facility, I'm just wondering, are we perhaps early with this motion, with making this ask, given that LaCamel's funding sources are probably going to be federal rather than provincial? And I'm just throwing it out there as an open question, but to me, it strikes me as we're early on this and probably best revisiting this ask once we have heard in greater detail from LaCamel. And those are my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Do you want to reply to that?
Through the chair to Director Davidson, I don't think that there's any harm in having this motion. It's the end of April. LaCamel is scheduled to come and give us a presentation in the coming months. And so I think that my experience with this latest round of the legislature has been that it isn't that easy to get minister meetings. So it might be ideal for us to start making those requests.
Okay, thank you. Director Horn?
Yes, I just want to make sure this obviously will have implications for our neighbors in Chilliwack, as well for those of us who share the system between Abbotsford and Mission. And I would ask that if there is success in having a meeting, that representatives from the Joint Shared Services Committee and Chilliwack are invited, because I anticipate the answer that we'll be asked to give is to pass it off to the municipalities.
It's a good point. Thank you. Director Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to speak in support of Ms. Kinnaman's position on this, I think this is a very complicated file, and there's certainly not a definite direction forward at this time. We should be pursuing much consultation with the province to ensure that they are aware of the problem and help us to look forward to a solution to this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to, you're good? Okay. Any other comments, questions? So all in favor of the motion before you? Any opposed? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.9.4 is legislative amendments with respect to illegal fill activities.
It's a motion before you.
Davidson moves.
Moved by Davidson, seconded by Director Adamo. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? So that carries. Thank you. Next item, please.
10.9.5 is advocacy plan. There's a motion for consideration.
A mover of the motion in front of us, the Director Dixon, seconded by Director McAhonig. Any discussion on this? So this is the piece where we're asking potentially for the surplus units, correct? Yeah. My only concern with this, I understand the intent. I understand the frustration that I think we all experience. But in order to set up a site, I think the prerequisites will be that it will be within a certain distance of services. And I have a little bit of concern on how will whoever the municipality be nearest to wherever site is selected, how will they be enabled to deal with a project of this magnitude?
Vice Chair Clute, I don't really think that these are questions that staff are in a position to answer. This motion arose from the EA Advocacy Committee, and I believe it was moved by Director McAhonig. So perhaps, I know it's a little bit unusual that we have board members answering questions, but this is not one that was driven by staff.
Okay, good. You want to go first?
Well, the director will probably have a response to a similar question for me, Chair. So I'll leave it to you to decide. But I'm going to ask something that probably also deserves a response.
Okay, let's start with Director McAhonig and we'll see.
No, I would agree that it would probably. I'll ask something and then.
Okay.
I share those concerns, as you do, Vice Chair. But I also have others, and without going too far astray, in my time between being a counselor and then coming back to elected life, I was extremely active in work around homelessness in the community of Mission. And I learned that there are very few people who can be served through a binary one-step solution. And we are even further into the weeds now with the complexity of the needs that are people are being supported. And I think Abbotsford and Chilliwack are finding that out in a very obvious way. We're talking about people who have chronic mental health needs in many cases, substance needs, patterns of living that are just, they're accustomed to a way of living. And so even if the intention here is to see these units moved down to Fraser Valley communities, it's not really an issue of whether or not we can find buildings. We had, for example, in Mission, a motel, in fact, 2 that were housing people. And without the proper supports and without a structure that's designed to help people in a comprehensive way, all of the issues spill out onto the streets. All of the issues become issues for the local school, the local commerce, the local single-family residence or multifamily complexes. I believe there is absolutely a need for the province to do far more and to invest significantly at a community level in comprehensive, dignified, multi-layered resolutions or solutions for people. But I'm afraid this one for me is really reminiscent of some of the things that I've seen backfire in the past. In a word, it represents what I would describe as institutionalized approaches, and they have often been very, very ineffective and had adverse effects on the neighboring community. So I wanted to put that out there because I know Director McElhonick will be responding to your comments and perhaps mine now as well.
Thank you. Do you want to respond, Director McElhonick?
Thank you, and thank you for your input. And I am aware you worked in your work with housing, and as you know, I've worked for many, many years with housing, and I do agree with you when you talk about the complexity, and this certainly is not a simple or easy problem, and that's where we are today. I mean, every community is struggling with the same thing. For me, it's sort of brought it to a head with the eviction of homeless. I commend Swally for taking back their land. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that. But what it did is displace people, and where we had I'll just give you one area. So we have numerous camps in the Chilliwack River Valley in Area E, and where we had one camp at the end of McFall Road, we now have 7. And there's a high element of criminality. And I wrote a letter to Minister Ravi Kahlon, and CC'd any ministry that has any kind of mandate to do with housing, environment, public safety. Like it's out there. I know that the provincial government has said that this is an emergency, the housing is an emergency, but I don't believe it's being treated as an emergency. And, you know, there's the element of people that are unhoused, and there's class levels with people that are unhoused. And we know that there's different levels, but there's also a lot of people that are precariously housed, or they're brand new to being homeless, and to have some interim housing for those before they get to the level where they become mentally ill, because homelessness does cause, I mean, some people are mentally ill, have mental health issues and before them, but a lot of people, and I know from my work and my experience that women in particular, but become unhoused, and that it's a downward spiral. They lose their children. There's just a whole spiral, and it end up drug misuse, and all sorts of different things like that. And now we're seeing more and more seniors as well. I really believe that there's a room for interim housing that is done in a proper way. And when I talked to Ravi Kahlon 2 years ago about this, he thought it would be not a bad idea, and it would be good, but they didn't have resources. In my conversations with different people, including Director Smith, became apparent that they're going to be decommissioning 1,700 living units in from the Site C dam, and there may be some potential use for that. I'm not saying it should be in the Fraser Valley Regional District. I'm not saying where they should be. I'm just saying it would, I think there is a need, and I don't think warehousing people and those kinds of things are going to work either. But if this is an emergency, let's treat it like an emergency. And I'm really encouraging the government to take resources that they have and at least put that out there. So I just think that we're being it's a terrible situation. It's a terrible situation for downtowns. It's a terrible situation for rural communities. And I think that instead of just saying it's an emergency, we need to treat it like an emergency. And when people are displaced in an emergency, we provide housing. And if that's all they can do, and if we have resources available, I think that we should at least look at it and put it out there and hopefully negotiate and something can come out, because they may be viable. So that was my purpose in that, and I fully understand. And the letter that I wrote talked about partnering with municipalities and regional areas and local nonprofits, and making it a respectful and welcoming place that people would be feeling safe and want to come to, not some like a shelter where we see what happens. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith.
Okay, yeah, so these buildings are like about 10 years old, and BC Hydro was really noted for looking after stuff. It just seems it would be such a unreasonable thing if they were tore down and thrown away. If we can do something with hydro, then we'd all have to do is take it apart and bring it down and move it up, but we'd have to look at that. So it's an early stage to have a meeting. We've talked to Chair Ross about this and that, just to have a meeting with hydro to see if they're even interested in it, and then go from there. It just, like, they got gyms, they got kitchens, they got everything else. It just would seem wrong if, we're not stating, it could be maybe a drug treatment trend. It could be a mental health center or something. It just, these are worth millions of dollars, and it would just seem wrong that it's going to the recycling bin. So we just want to test and see what BC Hydro is even interested. It may go nowhere. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. Director Siemens.
Thank you. I don't disagree with anything that's been said, but I do feel that we veered way off course with this particular one. There are ways that you can communicate to those ministries, but for us to put this as an advocacy, I just think there's unintended consequences, and we'll end up wearing this. So I just will be voting against this particular one for those reasons. I think valid points have been made. Lots of advocacy work is already going on. And I think this particular one, I would leave it to individuals to correspond with the government on this particular resource that might be available to them. But this really is a BC housing issue. And if we go too far down that path, we'll end up wearing it. And I'm just, I guess, once bitten, twice shy. So I think we have to stay focused.
Thank you, Director Siemens. Director Shahal.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. I concur with some of the comments made, but having experienced frontline over 30 years in criminal justice, you can build it. It doesn't mean they're going to come. And also, I think this is out of our realm. It's really, truly out of our jurisdiction. It's not sitting well with me. I'm not going to be supporting this motion for a myriad of reasons that some of them have been stated. But for me, I think that there's so much work we have to advocate for that I don't want to put something like this on the plates of staff and distract from other things. But I totally understand the issues around people being unhoused and the complexities around that. But however, I don't think it's within our realm to be advocating at this level and telling the province how they should be allocating monies and where they should be allocating monies. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Shahal. Anybody for a first time? Director
Yeah, so this would be the fact that the ministry looks after. We're not looking to take this on. Absolutely not. But the fact is, we just want to see if we can save the building. So they said by next year, if somebody hasn't taken it, they'll be in the scrap bin. And it's worth like hundreds of millions. So I'm just saying that. So, but we do not want to be running this. We want it to be a ministry thing and come back that way. Absolutely.
So if I can ask through to Director Smith, the buildings you're referencing, you have information that they'll be demolishing them if they're not utilized?
Yeah, so we want to have a discussion with Hydro here next week in Whistler, and just to ask, what is it even feasible or even to do it, or is there somebody else bidding on it, or what's that? But right now, they were said if they weren't taken by somebody, they would be demolished. That it just seemed like a lot of money. Like they're full on amazing, but we do not want to be the one running it. We want the ministry to take this on. Absolutely.
Director Davidson?
Just weighing in after hearing the comments, I tend to agree with Director Seaman and Chahal about essentially staying in our lane and staying focused. I mean, I'm glad those discussions will happen at Whistler. I think they can happen without FERD board endorsement, and I do sort of share the sense of wandering into dangerous ground on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Davidson. Director Dixon.
Thank you. I completely agree. We shouldn't be wandering into this because it is a provincial responsibility. I think certainly from my perspective, and I, as far as those houses, if they can be saved, I think that why wouldn't the province want to do that? And the challenge that I'm having is maybe not to the same extent as Director McMahon's in her area, but there are homeless people living on Crown land in my area, or it's in the province's area, way deep in the woods. They're having campfires and there's no ability to put the fire out. And when I hear things, and these are coming from provincial people, well, sometimes you just have to wait till something happens. And such as a forest fire, things like that, I find that disturbing. I have my residents crying out to me about what's going to happen. They're like, and that it's no guarantee that there will be a fire, but it is possible as it gets drier and drier. And this group are deep into the woods, and there are no creeks or water there. I don't know what they're using for water, and so when I hear that coming back is like, well, it's not big enough. We'll just wait and see. That's the problem that I'm struggling trying to get any kind of traction, and I'm kind of piggybacking on with Director McMahon's at committee that she has. But it does feel like the province would be quite happy if we just ignore it while our crown land is being cut down with chainsaws and things like that. So I'm at a loss. Maybe this isn't the exact motion. I do understand that, but I'd be more than happy if any of you people have had some success to hear that at some point. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Director Dixon. Chair Ross.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all the comments made around the board, and I really appreciate Director McMahon bringing this forward. But considering all the concerns that have been made, I am concerned about the wording of the motion for one thing, because I think we all agree that something like, even if we use this housing, it wouldn't be successful. We know that from history without wraparound supports. And this motion doesn't address it. And the way it's worded right now, like there have been many comments, that were concerned that, okay, so we can use this housing, where would it go? And the way the motion is worded, it sort of seems to me that it could be interpreted, or it could be implied that we would want it in our area. We would take it on, and where would it go? It sort of might be interpreted that we would be willing to put up the servicing for it. So that all of that concerns me as well. So I appreciate the intent, I appreciate the idea behind it and using this housing. But I'm just wondering if first we should just start with finding out whether this housing is even available first. Let's get that question answered first, and then perhaps bring this back is, I guess, where I'm thinking right now. And perhaps if we bring it back, it needs to specifically spell out that there needs to be wraparound supports, like counseling, recovery services, all that with it if this were to be used. And yeah, so it needs tweaking, in my opinion, but I think first we need to start with, is this housing even available first, and then bring this back for discussion.
Thank you, Chair Ross. Director Horn.
Yes, with that in mind, not only because of the points made by Chair Ross, but just because I can hear the anguish as we go around the table. I think people want to do the right thing, but I think the second part of the motion is somewhat challenging. And I think Chair Ross has identified some reasons why. I'm going to move that we refer it back to EASC for further research and refinement, and it can come back after that. I'll say if there's a second or a tiny bit more, but I'll move to refer it back.
Somebody willing to, Director Gill, to refer back? Director Fauci, do you want to?
I'll very quickly comment that I think the motion might have been supported if it simply ended at the word action. And I think if we were asking the province to treat this as an emergency and take bolder action, it has more wheels without us prescribing particular results. Thank you.
Okay, Director Fauci.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just for, they got him before me, but I totally agree with Director Ross and Director Horn. I think we should table this, and first of all, let's find out if they're available. Let's find out. This whole situation is a terrible thing for the homeless. It's been pushed aside for too many years and just left. Leave it alone. It'll disappear. It hasn't disappeared. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And it has been proved that for, I don't know if it's the majority or the minority, if they do have a home, that their lives can change. And I think if that's something that can help them, well, God bless all of them. But I think they should go back. Let's find that number one, is it available first? And then bring it back for some further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Facio. Director McConnell.
I really appreciate everyone's feedback and thoughts, and I do agree. And if you read it, it says such as the surplus housing, but I do think it is probably needing to go back myself for review. But I really appreciate the discussion that's been around, and I just wanted to mention something. So this year in the Chilliwack River Valley, we have a 17% less than average snowpack. And this year to date, we have had 34 calls regarding homeless from the fire department. So this, we really, and I went for a drive on yesterday or the day before, all the way up to Post Creek. We have a large number of camps, and I've taken some photos, and they are like housing, and they have like big cement things. So this is Area H has where they pulled big trailers in and taken the wheels off. There's no access to water. Very serious for safety for residents in our areas as well. So yeah.
Vice Chair Clute, could I just jump in for a second? We really should limit the discussion to the referral, the reasons for the referral.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director. Thank you, Director McConnell. Director Wardenberg.
Yeah, just for clarity on Director Horn's motion, is it referring back to EASC or to the advisory?
Back to the looking for a process on that.
Sure. No, that was the intention. It was back to the EA Advocacy Committee.
Okay, further discussion on the referral back. I'm just going to add my comments. I made some notes prior to everybody, and a lot of them have been identified. Should this go back, I believe that if there is language along the lines of without the robust wraparound services in place for all the residents, we need to make sure that, like Chair Ross mentioned, we got to have the services that complement the people living there. And then another food for thought on that conversation would be that the province would obviously invest significantly more resources into recovery. I think what we're recognizing is what's happening today is not working. And the province needs to step up in a big way towards recovery and detox beds and these types of things. So any other comments? Otherwise, I'll call the question and have this referred back. All in favor of referral? Anybody opposed? Director Castle opposed and Director Siemens opposed. Anybody? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving down to 10.10.1, which is a letter to Minister of Public Safety regarding Highway 1.
Motion before you. Somebody willing to make that?
Sure, I'll make the
Moved
motion.
by Director Horn, seconded Director Popoff. Director Popoff.
And I'll speak into it. Just an FYI and a suggestion. We don't currently have an OIC in place at this particular time. That process is going to start in early May. So I'm suggesting that we maybe put this on hold until we have one in place and then we can move forward with it. That's just my suggestion.
Point of order.
Yeah.
I think, are you referring to motion 10.10.2, Director Popoff? Because, oh, I see.
Yeah, it's OIC in both the other motions. Good acting OICs, but not.
I think the letter is intended to go to the Minister of Public Safety and just CC to the local detachment.
Okay, well then I guess we can vote on the first one, but well, I'll just put it out there. It's up to staff.
Okay, now I'm really.
Yeah, thank you. So am I. Through the chair to Director Popov, I think that the original intention was to send it to, and I'm not sure if officer in charge is the correct term, but it's at Green Timbers. It's whoever the new
It should be superintendent
is there. Yes, I think that was the intention there, not the local detachment, because it could be multiple actually individuals that would be affected by this at the local level. So the intention was more at the higher level of the RCMP, and I've just forgotten that individual's name.
It's Superintendent Brian Edwards.
Brian Edwards. Thank you. That's the name.
So looking through to Ms. Kidman, do we take that as?
So I think we can just make the amendment. That was the intention that came out of committee. So we can just make the proper amendment if it's a staff error.
Okay, so we don't need an amendment on
Staff error in your favor.
Okay.
We don't need the amendment.
Sounds good.
And a further question.
Yeah, go ahead, Director.
Is this about the policing on the highway, or what's the intent of the letter?
Through the chair to Director Popov, yes, the intention is to inquire on the status of the consultation that was promised and to reinitiate that discussion. It's come to our understanding that that file might see the light of day again. So we want to make sure that there is appropriate consultation taking place.
Thank you, Director Horn.
No, I think CAO Kinnaman stick handled that like Austin Matthews, so I don't have to say it.
Okay, perfect. Seeing no other hands or questions, all in favor of the motion? Anybody opposed? So that carries. Next item, please.
Next is 10.10.2, which is invitation for RCMP to present at future FVRD meeting.
So motion there for consideration. Is someone so moved by Director Fascio, seconded by Director Johnson. Any discussion, Director Fascio?
Oh, sorry.
No. Oh. I'm ahead of you. Sorry. Any conversation? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? So that carries. Thank you. Next item.
Next is 10.11.1, which is letter to the Premier. There's a motion for your consideration.
Moved by Director Castle, seconded by Director Smith. Any discussion on this? Director Horn.
Raised this yesterday in the first technical briefing with the MCR. And I would just suggest that in the letter, which I strongly support, we ask the province through whichever ministry to routinely update us on the progress of this work. I think it's my suspicious side believes that it is being left quiet and scattered amongst so many ministries that people don't quite know where to pursue it. And I think we need to ask for a degree of progress and accountability.
Good point. Absolutely. Any other comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed? So that carries. Next item, please.
Moving down to items for correspondence, we have 11.1, which is a letter from the city of Pitt Meadows.
Is there any questions with respect to the letter that's been received? Okay, the next item.
Okay, moving down to, Director Ross
Oh,
has.
sorry,
her hand.
Chair Ross, go ahead.
Chair Ross.
Sorry, I was just wondering if we could offer a letter of support for Mayor McDonald's resolution. She's just doing some amazing work on behalf of agriculture, and I would love to support what she's asking for here, if possible.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we'll take that as moved by Chair Ross and seconded by Director Facio. Chair Ross, did you want to speak further, or you're?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay, Director Horn.
Well, I think it's just a request for us to vote in support of it at LMLGA, and I spoke with the mayor today, and and I just updated Vice Chair Clute and Director Pranger about some of the work going on through an advocacy table. Director Popoff, Director Siemens have been at as well. So I don't know that they necessarily expect a letter. They're simply hoping for support, and I think you'll hear more about this as time passes. I completely agree that they are looking for more collaboration with the industry and local government leaders. And when the time is right, we may wish to have Pitt Meadows or others from that advocacy table speak to this group.
Thank you for that update. Any other comments, questions? Oh, sorry. We're good? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. Next item, please.
Moving down to reports by board directors.
Board directors, anybody have anything to report? Director Smith.
Earth Day is coming up. We're doing Earth Day in Hope on that. We do a lot of recycling in that. It's probably our biggest day for cleaning up the town. First year we did tire recycling a few years ago. We made a mistake of opening up to everybody. We got 1,200 tires one day, which was a lot more than we thought. Took months to get rid of them. Now we're restricted to about 250, so they can manage it over a month. But also the fact is that we're doing 4 different sites at the homeless camps. We're doing a cleanup. We're doing partnership with Emil Anderson Maintenance District and Valley Waste. So we're trying to get it, and they will be doing the cleanup to people in the homeless camp, putting in the stuff in bin, make it safer when the firemen go in there and the ambulance and out. So I think it'll make a difference and shows a little respect on our community for the Earth Day. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Smith. Any other board directors? Director Pranger.
Just like to invite everybody to the Harrison Tulip Festival, which is in Agassiz. So just be careful when you come because the traffic can be quite interesting. It's like going to Vancouver. But most days it's very beautiful and worthwhile going to see. Thank you.
Director Pranger is going to be installing a toll booth soon, I have a feeling. Any other directors? Any reports? Seeing none. Next item, please.
So moving down to public question period for items relevant to the agenda, we'll just turn things over to our corporate officer, Jamie Van Ness.
Thank you. We still do not have any members joining us online, but I do note that we have 2 members of the public joining us tonight in person, and this would be your opportunity to ask a question relevant to the agenda. And it does not appear anybody has any questions, so we can move to the next item.
So looking for a resolution to close the meeting.
So moved.
By Director Facio, seconded by Director Dixon. All in favor? So that carries. Thank you.
Okay, we'll just recess for about 5 minutes.